Welcome to Family Twist. There are stories that reach through the speakers, wrap around your heart, and leave a mark. Today's episode is one of those stories. When we first received Jeremy's email, Kendall and I were floored, not just by the intensity of what he'd lived through, but by the vulnerability and grace with which he told it. Jeremy's early life was full of pain no child should ever have to endure: abuse, neglect, instability. But what touched us so deeply was not just the darkness of his past, but his incredible strength in surviving it. Music became his lifeline, charm became his armor, and somehow through it all, he found a way to keep going. This first part of Jeremy's story is raw and emotional, but stick with us, because in part two, well, let's just say the universe had a twist in store, and it's one of the most beautiful we've ever heard. Jeremy, welcome to the Family Twist podcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. So listeners, Jeremy sent us an email a little ways back that was so heartfelt and just sort of chilling. You know, it kind of sent chills up my spine. And so first, I just want to say thank you for your bravery for even just sharing your story with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So I imagine a lot of this isn't the easiest stuff to talk about, but you're still just kind of going through all the different emotions and stuff. It's relatively fresh. Although the story begins back to your childhood, can you talk a little bit about what it was like growing up?
Yeah. So, child of a single mother who was an addict, pills, from what I know of, alcohol, was married many times. My last name has been changed many times according to who she was married to, and I guess I got adopted into that last name. The last name on my birth certificate, I have no idea who that is. Jeremy Edward Russ. Obviously, she had a lot of instability in her life. At her job, she had an affair with a married man. I was the result of that. From what I know from researching about my childhood through my new family that I discovered, she was extremely unstable during the pregnancy, tried to commit suicide twice with me inside of her. I truly believe in utero trauma is real. She spent many times terrorizing this man and his family of, you don't want to see your child, and outside of their house and cops being called. She was finally institutionalized after I was born. I don't know who took care of me. She traumatized this man's family as well with their children in the house, my siblings. Fast forwarding, I don't remember a lot of the first few years. I just remember it was just me and her. I was told there was a lot of men in and out of her life, in and out of our tiny little apartment in Baltimore City. I did find one of the names that I had, the last names that I had, Jeremy Edward Schaefer. I found him through my DNA searching and internet sleuthing, that they were married about 6 months after I was born. But when I contacted him, he was a very nice man. I just was trying to get some data about what my childhood was like. And I asked him, he said he was very fond of me and seemed like a good stand-up man. And I finally asked him, did you witness any abuse? And unfortunately, he said yes. And he said, I begged her to let me take you to the hospital, and she wouldn't let me. And back then in the 70s, a stepfather of 6 months probably didn't have a lot of rights to do much of anything, even stop her. So they didn't last very long. And I was like 1 year old at the time that they were together, and that he witnessed some of these beatings. I remember in my childhood being left at the table for hours on end because she served some kind of disgusting dish that no kid wants to eat, like liver or something. She would torture me with that, many other beatings. She even has pictures of me. I remember being black and blue, which I'm not really sure why anyone would keep that. She got married again when I was 8, which is the last name I have now. That marriage ended in divorce as well. So, I really never had any identity. Horrific beatings in my, preteens and teens. She was very fond of a red ping pong paddle and the wooden spoons that like your grandma would stir spaghetti sauce with, and her hand, her fist. I tell this story a lot. I always had a brace for impact feeling in my chest, that tightness you get in your chest. To this day, that's where all my anxiety goes. It's where all my stress goes. After a lot of therapy and writing my own book, or continuing to try to write my own book, I used to have to help my mother, a 6, 7, 8 years old, steer the car she was driving because I don't know why, she thought she could always drive a car drunk. And I would help her steer because we were rearing into a parked car, and I would gently put the steering wheel back up. She'd slap my hand away as I would see her nodding off. And that happened millions of times. That brace for impact is always, unfortunately, central to my childhood and into my adulthood.
Did you ever find out, or do you have any theories as to why she was the way she was? Did you know your grandparents at all, or?
So, unfortunately, my grandfather died when I was 1. This is on her side, her father. I do know that he was an amazing man, a wonderful singer. I'm very musical as well. I believe it's come down through the family. He died when I was 1, unfortunately, very good Catholic. Even his obituary said he survived by my mother and me and my grandmother, and all of Baltimore will miss him. So this was a good man. I do believe my grandmother had some mental health issues too. As I've done a lot of research over the last few years, I don't think she really ever left the house. She was very, very strict and protective of my mother. And then, my mother lost her father when she was 26 years old. And I just think it was the straw that broke the camel's back for her. She's never been the same. She would drag me to the cemetery, and I would sit in the car for hours as she wept over his grave. And I'm 6, 7 years old again. He was a good man, and probably the central part of her trying to stay focused on being good, or at least trying to do as much as she could to overcome her own trauma. I did see my grandmother throughout my childhood, maybe once a week. And I did believe she was a bit of my savior for those couple days that I had with her. She was a lot of fun, but I could always taste the tension, not only in the air or when my mother would be coming back to pick me up on Sundays and she would be hours and hours late. My grandmother would be pacing, or she'd be looking out the storm door of her little Baltimore row home, backing up and, back up and down the street looking for her to finally show up. And then my mother would show up in a pair of sunglasses at night, slurred words. She wore sunglasses to hide her glassy eyes. You get it. And, that's how that brace for impact kind of feeling has always stuck with me. It grew from all of those type of traumatic events. So I felt bad, and I still feel bad for my grandmother, even though she's gone. Nobody needs to be treated that way, or just live in that type of walk on eggshells all your life, every minute of the day. When somebody who is so abusive and narcissistic can dictate how you feel, it's not fair at all.
How old were you when you finally escaped that situation?
I ran away many times as a teenager. Luckily, I've learned a lot in therapy over the last 5 years and still continue to learn, really in intensive therapy. She didn't really cook a lot. I'm pretty small and thin for a guy. I had my own issues with eating, but I realized that I just survived off of what was in the fridge, or cereal was my go-to, as maybe many of us was as kids. And I think my brain at that crucial time just realized that food wasn't a source of energy or surviving. So I found other ways. And those ways were music. I studied jazz most of my childhood into high school and college, and found my voice, picked up the guitar, and that's what I do now. Music was a good escape for me. It allowed me to, and I excelled at it, and I got the spotlight, which was great. Finally someone sees me, they can hear me. They appreciate this talent that I have. And it was beautiful adoration for someone like me who never bonded with anyone, especially their mother, at that crucial time an infant needs to bond. And then the other thing is that I was good at talking to people, even at a young age. I found my charm like that, and it was my survival instinct. I made a lot of friends. I made a lot of girlfriends. And when I ran away, all the moms loved me because I just knew how to charm. It's how I had to survive. It well, if my mother's not going to love me, then I'm going to figure out how others can quickly. So I spent a lot of time on couches at my friend's house that their mothers would take me in. I worked at a hospital in Baltimore in my teenage years, just like in the kitchen, in the lab. And there's a lot of soccer moms there that knew something was going on, and I confided in them, would live with them off and on. My mother would always beg me to come back. And while she was screaming at the woman who took me in or the mom who took me in, where's my son? Where's my son? And I always wanted a relationship with my mother. I mean, there was no other. Can we cuss on this podcast?
Sure.
I mean, there's no other fucking person in my life besides my mother. I mean, I don't want to do this alone. I'm just a kid. She'd beg me to come back. She would promise me she wouldn't drink or beat me. I wanted to believe her, and I did believe her, but it only lasted a week maybe or two, and then she'd back in rehab or whatever. And so it was that back and forth, that yo-yo. And then, finally I was basically out by the time I was 18, just had some few clothes there that I would go in and grab and sneak in and grab if I needed them. I found my charm, and it worked. And I'm really familiar with IFS and parts and internal family systems and all of our parts to our personality. There's parts of my personality that said, you need to bond with someone when you're a kid, and if you can't bond with a parent, then we're going to figure out how you can use what you have. Maybe it's your charm to bond. And while that worked as a kid, the whole I'm going to charm you before you reject me philosophy that was instilled in me as a child, I used it all my life. It doesn't create healthy behaviors as an adult, because I'll do everything I can to connect with you as quickly as possible so I feel secure in a relationship with the woman behind the grocery counter. I mean, it doesn't matter, because the thought of rejection or abandonment is too much for my head to wrap itself around. I had a mother who rejected me for her addiction, and I had a father who abandoned me at birth because he was married. So my life is been built around trying not to get rejected or abandoned by anyone I meet. And as an adult, I realized that's not healthy, and continue to work through finding the more authentic person behind the kid who's trying to, charm you before you reject me or abandon me. And it's always a day-to-day process.
I would imagine that just because there was men in and out of her life and sort of father figures for you, maybe as a kid you weren't really thinking about finding your birth father. And, obviously when you're 18 years old, we didn't have Ancestry.com. It would have been a challenge, to find him. Mm-hmm. So at what point did you think, I would like some answers? I don't know what's going on with my birth father's side of the family.
I just want to say one thing and then we'll fast forward. She had a lot of men in her life. I don't remember a lot of them because there were so many when I was such a young kid, but none of them were, I would call, a father figure. They never stopped the abuse or anything. They were just in her life. They were nice to me, but they never stopped any of it. So, they probably had their own trauma as well. Fast forward, luckily my biological father, the man she had an affair with, did write her a check to shut her up. That was kept with lawyers, and it's a small amount back then, but it was enough to send me to 4 years of state school and a Catholic high school. If I didn't do any of that, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. It gave me focus and it's where I discovered I was pretty damn good at jazz and saxophone, and it gave me that elation and that adoration that I used to at least survive. So anyway, started a family, met my wife, who's my rock. God knows why she puts up with my baggage for 30 some years now, but started a family, had 2 girls, are out of the house now, and very successful. 5 years ago, 2019, July of 2019, we're celebrating my birthday like we always do. We have crabs, like who doesn't have crabs in Baltimore, on their birthday. And my girls were 19 and 17 at the time, and they said, listen, why don't we know anything about you? We don't know any of your family. That you never talk about any of it. And I'm like, you know what? You're old enough. This is before I started therapy or anything. You're old enough. my heart's been dying to tell you. And I said, listen, this is all I know about my father. It's just his name and his picture. It's all I was given. And I never went down that road to find out anything else, because I'll be honest, you don't want me, I don't fucking want you. Fuck off, you know? You don't want me, so I don't want you. There's no reason to research anything. It's just going to send me down a road of more trauma. Oh, you have a beautiful family? Great, I'm not part of it. Oh my God, everyone's successful and rich? Oh my God, I'm not part of it, you know? Him and his family are very well-to-do in Baltimore, and I always dreamed that he had kids. So I always dreamed of siblings. So I tell that to my kids. Here's my father's name and picture. And 20 seconds later, they pick up their phone and they find my brother and my other brother and my sister. And again, I could have done all that with a 5-minute Google search, but there's no way I was gonna. It's too painful, you know? And of course, I went white in front of them, covered in Old Bay. And then, like any teenage girl, they went a million miles an hour and found email addresses and phone numbers and beautiful pictures of these beautiful siblings that I've had all my life and dreamt about all my life. And I had to ask them to slow down because it was way overwhelming. And it's, you know, I feel the same overwhelming feeling as I'm telling you this story. Is it a full body feeling I'm having right now of a bit of tension and a bit of relaxing a little bit. So me and my wife spent the next 6 months from July of 2019 to the end of 2019 talking about what the hell we were going to do with this information. And one day I'm excited to reach out to them, and I have every right, and I've deserved this because I've dreamt of siblings, because I wanted someone to go to while she was beating the fuck out of me, you know? I wanted someone to walk on eggshells with around the house so we wouldn't wake her up in one of her drunken stupors where she would be on a binge for 3 days on the weekend. I wanted someone to share that brace for impact feeling that is still in my chest, you know. So me and my wife, we go back and forth, and what are we going to do? And I can't destroy a family. I mean, I can't, while I have enough around me that I should be happy with, and I am. I'm blessed. You know, I have a good career, I have a faithful wife, and I have beautiful children, and they put up with me, and that should be enough. So we finally decided not to do anything because I don't want to be the reason a family is destroyed. I can't go to my grave with that, you know. As much as I wanted my dream to come true, I should be blessed with everything that's been given to me. So as a musician, like I said, I play a wedding in January of 2020. And I'm playing guitar and singing. And at the reception, we're all hanging out, drinking and partying. And I overhear some girl who I know through a friend, she's a friend of a friend, I've met her before, say that she went to a certain high school in Baltimore. Now listen, those 6 months, me and my wife are going back and forth. I'm stalking the hell out of my siblings online. I'm finding everything about them. Everything is beautiful. Everything is exciting. It's lovely, you know. I'm getting to know them while they have no idea I exist. So this woman, Emily, I overhear her say that she went to a certain high school in Baltimore, and because I cyberstalked my siblings, I knew it was the same freaking high school. Never even heard of this high school before I started researching my siblings. And I say, Emily, did you just say blah, blah, blah school? She's like, yeah. And I said, do you know this family last name? And I said the family last name of my siblings and my father. Yeah, I graduated with so-and-so and so-and-so. She named my brothers. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? Again, go white and lose my shit.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you're the only person that knows my siblings on this earth that I know, and they don't know I exist.
Mm.
So a bottle of wine later, I tell her the story, and she convinces me, and I'm still fucking getting goosebumps right now as I tell this to you. She convinces me I have every right to know who I am, my lineage, who looks like me, who sounds like me. I have every right. And so, you know, those last few weeks in December before the wedding in January, I decided to spit in a cup and send it off to Ancestry and keep everything private. It was just me doing some more sleuthing, and it was my proof to say that I've connected the dots and I'm not off on some wacky trail. And listen, spitting in the cup, the DNA proved everything. Thankfully, my siblings put their stuff up online on Ancestry. They have beautiful family trees. I was discovering grandparents and great-grandparents and uncles. And I discovered where I came from in Europe and the fact that I'm more Jewish than I am German, the other couple percents of what I am. And it was beautiful to just see people that I never even knew existed before in pictures of them. It was eye-opening and lovely. When you don't know anything about yourself, you have no identity. It was fun. It really was. I mean, most of these people in the tree are dead, but I'm related to them. And I can say I had a grandfather and name was this. Oh my God, I look like this person when I was a kid. It's fascinating. So over the weekend, after I talked to Emily at the wedding, I turned my profile from private to public. And I knew what the fuck was going to go down. You get pinged, you get emails. January 13th, I get an Ancestry message from my cousin, who I could see in the family tree. And God knows why I hadn't looked at my phone for hours, but by the time I picked it up Monday night, there was 3 messages from her in Ancestry. First one's like, hey, it seems like we're related, if you want to chat. And then the second one, an hour later, was like, I'm pretty sure I know how we're related. What she figured out is her uncle, her mother's brother, my father, my sibling's father, had a baby out of wedlock. Nobody fucking knew about it. So she was telling me, yeah, hey, I think I figured it out. Read between the lines if you want to talk. And oh my God, I look down and I'm like, I have someone with my blood actually communicating to me right now. You got to remember, a lot of DNA stories are like, oh, great, I have another brother. I have another half brother. That's great. Add him to the list. Oh, I have another cousin. That's wonderful. I got nothing. I don't know who looks like me. I don't know who sounds like me. I don't know why I had curly hair most of my life. Getting older, it's straightening out. But all of it, nothing. So everything is a first for me. It's a beautiful first. And I got someone who has my blood, who actually it looks like me from her profile pic, talking to me right now. So, of course, I immediately text her back through Ancestry. Hi, Catherine. I'm like, did you really figure it out? Yes. And I'm still kind of seeing if she really knows. And she says, you're so-and-so's son. You're my uncle's son. I'm like, yep. This was my mother. She wasn't a nice person. I believe she worked for him. I knew he existed all my life just because my mother gave me his name. Oh my God. We chatted for like 2 or 3 hours over Ancestry till like 1 a.m. I come to figure out her sister was like texting her questions to ask me while I was talking to her over Ancestries, over this whole thing. It was kind of getting known in the family a little bit. And she said, do you want to meet? And I'm like, oh my God. You have no idea how much I want to meet. And meanwhile, my wife is sleeping next to me, has no fucking idea any of this is going down. She knew I did the spit in the cup. She knew I turned things profile to, private to public. She knew shit was going to go down soon. And she wakes up and I'm like, I have no fucking idea this is what happened, but I'm talking to my cousin and I'm meeting her for dinner tonight. She was in Baltimore area. Most of the family was still in Baltimore. One of my siblings was in Baltimore. The other one is in Phoenix. And the other one, my sister, is in New York. So I'm losing my shit all day. I can't think, can't do anything. I had this meeting at the high school where I was the fundraising chair for the music department. And I'm like, all right, we got to make this meeting quick because you guys have no idea what's going on. And I don't even remember if we accomplished anything. I'm like, all right, I'm out. You guys do whatever you want to do. But I got to meet my blood for the very first time. And I was late, unfortunately, because of the meeting. And I'm texting, Kathy, I'm coming. She's like, cool. I walk into this great restaurant in my hometown, play a ton of gigs there. And it's my bar. It's my wife and, it's our neighborhood bar. Everyone knows us. I would have feel comfortable there, And I walk in and I see these two beautiful Jewish women looking at me in this fucking crowded room of people. And I just know it's them. And they're so fucking like beautiful. And they look like me. And their hair color is similar. And we have the same eyebrows. And I mean, you can't explain something like that. You can't understand when you don't know where you come from or why you're put on this fucking earth with an addict who beats the fuck out of you and with no father in your life. You're like, what the fuck, really? This is really my existence, I'm shaken telling you this now. It's reliving it as a beautiful, traumatic experience. We talk and we cry and I tell them everything about my childhood and they tell me about theirs and they tell me about the other people in the family. And at the end of this 2-hour dinner where they're closing up and we're still there trying to finish our meal, which is cold now. I probably had more old fashions that night than I should have.
It's hard not to feel Jeremy's story deep in your bones. That brace for impact feeling he describes, it's more than a memory. It's a physical imprint of trauma that so many survivors carry. But Jeremy didn't let it define him. He built a life, a family, a career, all while carrying a past that would have shattered many. And just when he had resigned himself to never knowing where he came from, never knowing who he truly belonged to, fate stepped in. A wedding, a high school name, a glass of wine, and suddenly the walls between what was and what could be began to crumble. You do not want to miss part 2, where the story takes a turn into unexpected connection, family revelations, and yes, a love story that will leave you breathless. Until then, take a breath, hold someone you love close, and remember, family secrets are the ultimate plot twist. The Family Twist podcast is presented by Savoir Faire Marketing Communications and produced by How the Cow Ate the Cabbage, LLC.